Hello everyone and welcome to another movie review video. The hit game that swept the nation, Five Nights at Freddy's, came out 10 years ago this past Thursday, so I thought what better way to celebrate than do a movie that is not about killer animatronics in a pizzeria, and instead cover a movie that has a similar name and similar, I guess, creatures or whatever the hell. We're looking at Freddy's Fridays, which came out in 2023, the same year as the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. I'm sure it was no coincidence. If I'm being honest, it is not that bad of a movie. Usually movies like this that try to copy off something big, but with a low budget, maybe not the best acting or effects or whatever, usually they don't turn out too good. This movie is not as terrible as you would think it would be. I had an alright time watching it. Is it the best? No, not by any means. But is it the worst? No, I have seen plenty of worse things. Freddy's Fridays is just bang in the middle, surprisingly solid, like I wasn't bored and I wasn't begging for the movie to be over. So I guess good job to Freddy's Fridays. You beat my expectations even though they were kind of dirt low, but still good job nonetheless. This movie is about a man who brings women down to a warehouse and he has to have them read from a fleshy book with a blinking eye on it, and if they read the Latin passage or whatever from the book, these creatures from hell rise up and kill whoever read the Latin text. So it's up to our main character, who is a detective, to figure out what's happening and put a stop to all of this madness. It feels good to watch a movie my hopes weren't too high for actually be entertaining. To be fair though, I am really stretching the word entertaining. It is middle of the road basic. So now I'm going to go into more detail and break down the story of Freddy's Fridays. We start the movie off with a guy named Todd who has hired an escort named Anastasia, and they're kissing and stuff, and it just so happens to be Friday.
It's Friday. It's time to get naughty.
He takes her to his warehouse that has some candles and a weird fleshy book with a blinking eyeball, and I don't know what's scarier, the fact that there's a fleshy book with a blinking eyeball, or the fact that Anastasia doesn't really seem to mind all that much.
Or is this some kinky Kama Sutra?
Since Todd did hire her for the night, he asks her to read some of the Latin out of the book, which she does, and wouldn't you know it, some hell creatures, definitely not animatronics, rise up and are standing right next to her. She gets stabbed with some hooks, and then they chop her head off. The next day, we see a woman named Connie talking to Leela about Anastasia and how she's like the closest thing to family that she has, and she really wants to know where she could be because she hasn't seen her since Friday. Once Leela's boss walks in, she informs him that this is the 6th person to have gone missing, and she finally has some info and she's gonna get to the bottom of it. The chief, on the other hand, doesn't seem to care all that much.
These girls, they go missing. Sometimes they come back, sometimes they don't.
It seems like there's always gotta be a jackass cop boss in these sort of situations. Later in the day, Leela meets up with the head of the escort agency, Patricia, and she fills her in on some details about Anastasia, saying that she's a good girl, and confirming the relationship with Connie. She's doing this to get money and provide a better life for her since they're kind of like sisters. So it doesn't really seem like Anastasia would go off and just do some drugs and run away or whatever. But Leela also learns that the last person to see Anastasia was Todd. Now we go back to Leela's place and she's talking to her boyfriend John, and we get a piece of information that I thought was going to come into play later on, but it never ever gets brought up again unless I missed it. John says that Leela is determined to find these missing women because Leela's sister Sarah got taken when they were both young, and that's why Leela is so fixed on these missing women. It's not because it's her job or anything, it's because her sister got taken when they were younger.
Don't bring my sister into this.
But yeah, like I said, never gets mentioned again. So Sarah, thanks for stopping by. We don't even get to see what you look like. You're just slight motivation that may or may not be true. Also, here's where we meet her roommate slash best friend Jess, and she's an influencer. She's pissed that her boyfriend won't follow her and like her posts and listen to her podcast, you know, typical influencer stuff.
You know, he never likes any of my Instagram posts. Not even the ones from Bali when I'm sat on that tranquil elephant. It's like, what more do you want? Do you know what I mean?
But she seems like a chill person, so Jess is alright in my book. And since Jess is so online and on social media, Leela asks her to do some research on Todd, and wouldn't you know it, she finds a bit of info on that sleazy bastard. Apparently, he was a stockbroker that was very unlucky, but all of a sudden, money just started rolling in for this guy, and now he's going to exclusive clubs and riding in sports cars and just, I guess, living the life. And on his Instagram, they see that he goes out every Friday, and that night he's gonna be at a very exclusive club that just so happens to have a membership for.
Do you want to use my membership card?
Now earlier I said that it seems like Todd is just living the life, but apparently it's a bit rough for him because he has to make all these sacrifices. But hey, on the bright side, he only needs 2 more. So that night, Leela gets all dolled up, uses Jess's membership card to get into the club, and as she's getting hit on by like 5 or 6 dudes, she sees that Todd is there with a woman, and they're heading out the door. She follows Todd and his girl, and even though Todd is a bit suspicious, Leela does not get caught. We run back the same events that happened the last Friday. He takes this new girl to the warehouse. He asks her to read from the book, even though this time it appears that he has forgotten his manners.
I'm going to sound so...
Read it, you dirty fucking slag!
Once she reads it, the lights flicker, Freddy and his pals appear once again, and this woman also gets sliced in the back with a hook. Freddy is just going to town on this poor woman with an axe, and he actually dismembers her. Todd then goes on to say one more time next Friday. After Todd leaves, Leela takes a look inside and she finds some blood, but no body. But what she does find is that fleshy book with the eye. The wind starts blowing and there's a purple light that appears, so she takes the book as evidence and runs away. But don't think you got away scot-free, Leela. Freddy saw what you did. She returns to her home and tells John and Jess about what she's found. Leela reads some of the book and learns that 7 out of 8 women have already been sacrificed. John reads a bit of the Latin out loud, and if we're playing by Evil Dead rules here, that's not gonna end up being too good. Leela heads to bed and she plans on showing her boss all the evidence tomorrow. We're now at John's place and you probably guessed what's gonna happen next. His lights turn off and it appears that Freddy and friends are having a quick game of tag running around his place. It actually looks really goofy. After they're done running around, the clown stabs John in the top of the head with a knife and then slices his throat. See, that's what happens when you read words out loud that come from a fleshy book. You would think these people would know by now. Leela is at her office spilling all the tea to her boss, but of course, he's still like, we need more concrete evidence and yada yada this and yada yada that. But she gets a phone call and she learns that John is dead. And not only is he dead, he's been full-on decapitated. And I think it's safe to say that she's pretty upset about it. Leela wakes up after having a Freddy-filled nightmare, and Jess is starting to read some of the book out loud, but she quickly stops her. It's time to get down to business, and the two of them quickly try to do more research about this book and what's actually going on here. I don't think Leela's getting any work done though, because she keeps on seeing glimpses of Freddy and his friends roaming around their home. Apparently the book summons Freddy and his friends, and they can actually grant you a bunch of wishes and stuff if you, well, you know. The Latin translates to Frederique, accept my soul as an offering to thee. Leela's new plan is to act like an escort and have Todd take her to the warehouse. So Leela once again gets all dolled up, heads to that club that he was seen at the week prior, tells the girl that would have been a victim to go on and scram. Todd doesn't really seem to mind the last minute replacement, so he takes Leela to the warehouse. While Leela's out and about, let's check and see how Jess is doing. Turns out Leela wasn't the only one having visions of Freddy and his friends at their place. She yells and says that they're not real, but judging by the pitchfork that's inside of her stomach, I'd say they're pretty damn real. Poor Jess gets dropped to the floor, and they finish her off with a mallet to the face. Todd and Leela are at the warehouse, and he notices that his reading material has gone missing.
The fucking book is always here!
The library isn't gonna like you, Toddy boy. I'll be a bitch in late fees.
When Leela reveals that she's the one who took it, Todd starts laughing. He's done this thing 6 times already, so he has the lines memorized. Leela calls Todd a murderer, but since he uses John Kramer logic, he thinks that he actually hasn't killed anybody.
I've never killed anyone.
Yeah?
Not really.
He starts choking Leela and demands that she repeats the words, but since he said them first... Looks like you're in trouble, Todd. The clown slices into Todd's neck with a cleaver. Freddy, however, doesn't need to use any weapons, and he punches Todd repeatedly over and over again with his bare hands. Maybe not bare hands, more like, I guess, cat hands? What? I don't even really know what Freddy is. While all of that was happening, Leela managed to escape, but when she gets home, she finds Jess dead. Womp womp. She tries looking for answers in the book on how to stop all of this. I guess before Jess died, she was able to translate more of the Latin from the book. Book is key, weakest when summoned. War between heaven and hell, destroy the book. Use his weapon and send back to hell. The chief decides to be somewhat useful and shows up at Leela's house. She says they only have 45 minutes left to use the book and stop all of this.
And we need to put a stop to this, otherwise, every Friday, It's gonna be Freddy's Friday.
Before the chief actually decides to help, he does want some answers because Leela, gonna be honest with you, it's not really looking too good for you, with the dead roommate and the dead boyfriend. Jess and John died because apparently she brought the book home and read some of the Latin, so now she owes Freddy 8 sacrifices, and John and Jess were just the first 2. Leela's finally able to convince her boss to come to the warehouse and help her end all of this. Leela is going to have the chief read some of the Latin and have him offer her up as a sacrifice. And while all of that is going down, that's when they're going to kill Freddy and his friends. The chief reads part of the Latin, but then Leela screams no, 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 no. So I don't know if she was acting like it was a bad thing, or if he read the wrong Latin. Not exactly sure what happened there, but it doesn't really seem to matter because the war between hell and here is finally taking place, and Freddy and his gang are all at their weakest, apparently. The gang shows up exactly as planned, and the chief and Leela beat the hell out of the clown with a hockey stick and a baseball bat. However, the Scarecrow is able to get the jump on the chief and stabs him with a pitchfork. Leela doesn't take too kindly to her idiotic boss getting stabbed, however, and decapitates the Scarecrow. Humpty doesn't take too kindly to one of his friends being decapitated, so he digs his claws into Leela's back. It doesn't seem like it was super effective though, because Leela just rips Humpty's insides out. Oh my god. While Leela is dealing with Eggy Kruger, Freddy is about to finish off her boss, but she launches a pitchfork at Freddy, but he catches it. Freddy then throws a cleaver at Leela, but she dodges it and pushes return to sender and sends that cleaver back right into Freddy's gut. Their fight isn't over just yet because the clown actually isn't dead, but Leela stabs him in the eye, and that seems to put away the killer clown from not outer space. She's able to get the chief up, and both of them leave. And now here's where we cut to 2 weeks later. Leela and the chief are sitting outside their office, I guess, and it seems like all is well in the world. Freddy and his friends are no longer causing any more trouble, but of course we go back to the warehouse, and the cleaver that was launched into Freddy's gut actually didn't hit him in the gut. He was holding the book, so it stabbed the book, not him. So I guess he was just playing dead, or maybe it went through the book and got him just a little bit. But he is ready to go again, and that's where the movie ends. More sacrifices to come, I guess. So there you have it. That is Freddy's Fridays. I thought the movie was fine. That ending, while it's like, ooh, what's gonna happen next? It kind of leaves it a bit unfinished, because she's like, ah, we did it. But no, you didn't. You think she would have noticed that he wasn't stabbed, but I guess him just sitting against the wall was good enough for Leela. Maybe she's not the best detective, but she was nice, so yay, Leela. Like I said in the beginning, this movie was way better than I thought it was gonna be. Better being a big stretch. It's a fine movie. It's not gonna be for everybody. It's probably only gonna be for 10 people, and I am one of those 10 people. That's it for Freddy's Fridays. Will they come out with the second one? Honestly, nothing's impossible. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know if you go check out Freddy's Fridays, and if you do, tell me in the comments if it was good or bad. If you've already seen it, let me know your thoughts, and I will see you in the next video. Check the community tab for a poll. That way you can decide what I cover next. Okay, goodbye.